Whoopi Goldberg commit defamation? I'm attorney Candace. Let's talk about it. So lately, Whoopi Goldberg has been all over the news for her statement that she made about a bakery regarding her birthday dessert. All right. Now, before we can ever give any type of legal analysis, legal opinion, we always have to be very clear on the facts. Okay. So let's dive into the facts first, and then we'll give a legal breakdown. So recently, it was Whoopi Goldberg's birthday. Happy birthday to you, Whoopi. Whoopi Goldberg wanted 48 desserts from a dessert shop in Staten Island. Okay. She had one of her support staff call in and make the order, and they specifically mentioned her name. Hey, this order is for Whoopi Goldberg, doing the good old celebrity name drop. But for some reason, the bakery basically stated that they would not be able to fulfill the order because their oven was down or some type of appliance of theirs was down and not working. So Whoopi Goldberg then had another phone call be made to this exact same bakery, but this time she instructed them not to use her name. And voila, they didn't use her name and the bakery accepted the order. Now, Whoopi said that the order that was placed during the second phone call was the exact same order that she tried to order the first time. Okay, it was no difference. It was the exact same order. And that second phone call, the bakery accepted the order and said that they could fulfill it. So Whoopi got the desserts. She brought them on the show that she co-hosts called The View, and she basically talked about what had happened. The first phone call when her name was mentioned, they stated they couldn't fulfill the order due to one of their appliances being down. And then the second phone call being made where her name wasn't mentioned, they accepted the order and fulfilled it no problem. So it was Whoopi Goldberg's opinion that the bakery did this to her because they didn't agree with her political views. Now, we don't know if that's true or not. That really won't be able to be proven until, the case gets before the court. So that is kind of the background there. After Whoopi Goldberg made the statement, well, let's back up a little bit. When she made the statement, she never mentioned the bakery, okay? And so a lot of people have questions about that. If someone doesn't mention a person or business, is that still defamation? We'll talk about that later. So Whoopi Goldberg made her statement. She never mentioned the bakery. And then subsequently, after her statement was made, the bakery did a press release with the president of the Bureau for Staten Island. And they basically talked about, hey, Whoopi Goldberg's statement was not true. Our business does not, basically reject orders because of political views, and encourage the community to support them. If you or someone you know is facing a legal issue, use the barcode above to scan and book a consultation with my law firm. The community most certainly supported them. In fact, it seems like their business skyrocketed after Whoopi Goldberg made this statement instead of declining. So the president of the Bureau for Staten Island did a bunch of different news conferences and things like that, interviews, and he basically stated that after they did their press conference about the situation, they've been having like thousands of customers. The business is booming. It's doing really good. Even the president went so far as to say people from around the world are now supporting the bakery. Okay, so those are the facts. Let's dive into the legal aspect. Now, first things first. Can you still commit defamation if you don't directly mention a person or a business name? And the answer is yes. If your statement and your mention indirectly of that person or that business would be to a degree where a reasonable person could infer who you're talking about, okay? So let's say, for example, if Whoopi Goldberg said, hey, this situation happened with this bakery in Staten Island, and let's just say there was only one bakery in Staten Island, then of course we would know who that bakery is, and yes, that still would be considered defamation. But let's say there's 20 or 30 bakeries in Staten Island. Her alone just saying, hey, I had this situation with this bakery in Staten Island, that wouldn't be enough if there's 20 or 30 bakeries, right? The other thing that would be important to consider is the desserts that she actually brought on the show from that specific bakery. Now, we would have to assess the wrapping on the desserts. Did it have any type of logos on it from the bakery? Or is that wrapping on the desserts specific wrapping that only one bakery in Staten Island uses, okay? Because that would also determine whether or not defamation would be able to proceed, okay? If you or someone you know is facing a legal issue, scan the bar link above and book a consultation with my office. So let's assume that the wrapping on the paper, on the desserts, you know, it had a logo for the bakery, right? Then of course, they would still have a claim for defamation if there can be the other elements that we're going to talk about later. But yes, that could still be considered defamation if their logo was on the desserts, right? Because then people could say, oh, well, she didn't mention the bakery, but their logo is right there. We know that logo. That's only one bakery in Staten Island that uses that logo, okay? Let's assume that the desserts didn't have the logo. There's no logo for the business on there, but it has some type of wrapping paper on it or whatever that only one bakery in Staten Island uses. Then that also could be grounds for defamation, okay? Now, if multiple different bakeries are using the same wrapping paper, then no, they would have a hard time. The bakery would have a hard time, you know, basically proving that that indirect statement was enough for a reasonable person to conclude that it was talking about that specific bakery, okay? So we got that out of the way. Now, always remember, when we're dealing with defamation, there's multiple different elements. And so anytime you're trying to bring a lawsuit against someone, you have to basically assess, do you meet the requirements to prove all of those elements, right? Because you have to prove every element. You can't just prove one element and try to win. So the first element with defamation is you have to be able to show that the statement that the person made was false. So was the statement that Whoopi Goldberg made was false? Was it false? You know, did the bakery actually refuse her order because of her political views? We don't know. That's something that is very fact intensive that will come out during a trial, okay? So we will have to look and see, hey, has the bakery ever refused someone else's order that, you know, is public and vocal about their political status, you know, their political views, right? All that stuff will come out in what we call discovery, where we get to, you know, ask for information, ask for documents. We get to investigate as attorneys, okay? So let's assume that the bakery did not refuse the order because of Whoopi Goldberg's political views. Let's assume they never even knew her political views, you know? Then they would be able to prevail on that first element of showing, hey, the statement she made was false, okay? Now, let's assume, we're gonna flip the coin and assume, hey, we are able to prove that they refused her order because of her political views. Maybe after the phone call, they had a conversation with one of the staff members and basically said it. And maybe we can get that staff member in a deposition to admit that that is why the owners refused the order when Whoopi Goldberg's name was mentioned, right? But it's going to be very fact intensive, and it's going to turn on what the attorneys can uncover during discovery, which is our way of basically investigating the case, okay? So the other thing that's really important when it comes to defamation is a category called defamation per se, okay? Now with defamation per se, there are multiple different categories that the courts automatically presume that defamation occurred. If you or someone you know is facing a legal issue, scan the barcode above and book a consultation with my office. Basically, okay? If you can show that what the statement the person made is not true. So that's something else that the attorneys for the bakery are going to highly consider, okay? And the good thing about defamation per se is damages are presumed. So you don't have to go and try to show, hey, I was damaged by this statement. It's automatically presumed, okay? Now, those categories for defamation per se are things like, hey, if you accuse someone of committing a crime. So if Whoopi Goldberg had accused the bakery of, committing some type of crime, then that would be defamation per se. And as long as the bakery would be able to prove that, hey, we did not commit a crime, then they will automatically prevail on damages because it's presumed, The other defamation per se category that is really applicable in this situation is if you accuse a person or business of something that would harm their reputation because it's something that is unethical or something that is accusing them of being incompetent or dishonest or something like that. Now that's gonna again be very fact intensive in this case because everybody has kind of. If you or someone you know is facing a legal issue, get help by scanning the barcode above and book a consultation with my office. Different definitions of what is unethical, right? So is it unethical for a bakery to refuse someone's order based on their political views? In my opinion, it's not, okay? Is it dishonest? No, that has nothing to do with the bakery's honesty or not if they refuse someone orders based on their political views, okay? Is it accusing the bakery of being incompetent? No, it's not. It's not accusing them of being incompetent. So I think that the defamation per se here in this situation is likely not to prevail, right? I think in this situation, the bakery is gonna have to basically go the traditional route with regular defamation and actually show that there was some damages, okay? And now before we go into traditional defamation per se and damages, some good examples of defamation per se when you're accusing a business of something that's unethical or that they're incompetent or they're dishonest is like if you accuse a business of saying like, hey, they have underage children working for them and those children work 20 hours a day, right? Obviously that's unethical because it's unethical to have child labor. It's unethical to make someone work 20 hours a day, especially a child. It's unethical for all of that, right? So that could be a great argument of defamation per se in accusing a business of doing something unethical, okay? Another good example would be like, well, the business, I placed the order with them, but they, my cake fell apart as soon as we put the knife in to cut it. That would be considered incompetence, right? Because a competent bakery obviously would know how to make a cake that doesn't fall apart when you're trying to cut it, okay? So those are just some little examples so you get a better understanding of, defamation per se when you're basically saying things against a business that could harm them or something like that. So I don't think defamation per se is going to be applicable in this particular case because I don't see where Whoopi Goldberg accused them of a crime, accused them of anything that would be considered unethical or for them to be incompetent or dishonest, things like that. So if they're going to go the traditional defamation route, just regular defamation, again, they're going to have to show that that statement Whoopi made was false. And then they're also going to have to show that they were damaged in some way, right? And this is assuming that they don't prevail on defamation per se. Now, in this case, the president of the Bureau for Staten Island, he's been all over, news interviews and things like that, basically talking about the success of the bakery since Whoopi Goldberg made this statement, right? And particularly since they went and did their own press conference after Whoopi Goldberg's statement. So the president of the Bureau stated that they've been having thousands of customers on a regular basis, that they've been getting so much love and support, not just in the Staten Island community, not just in New York, New Jersey, not just in America, but around the world, okay? So I think it's going to be difficult for them to show that they've been damaged by this situation because actually the opposite happened. Instead of them being damaged, they were actually blessed. They've gotten more customers, more support, more publicity, more notoriety. So, if they're trying to come against Whoopi Goldberg for defamation, I don't see them prevailing on it. So I'm Attorney Candace, and always remember, be careful what you say in public and in private because it could be considered defamation. All right? Until next time. We take legal matters at my firm very seriously. If you or someone you know is facing a legal issue, scan the barcode and book a consultation with my office.